Most of us think of negotiation as this super tense confrontation, a real battle of wills. But what if that's completely the wrong way to look at it? What if it's actually a game? A game with a clear set of rules, some smart strategies, and a bunch of proven plays that can get you the win. Well, today we're cracking open that playbook. So, does the very thought of haggling over a price or, asking for a raise make your palms sweat? You are definitely not alone. But today, we're going to flip that script. We're literally handing you the playbook, a set of 10 really powerful tactics that'll turn you from a reluctant participant into a confident player who knows exactly what move to make and when. All right, so here's how our playbook is broken down. It's got 4 key sections. First, we're going to cover setting the playing field. These are the opening moves that really define the whole game. Then we'll get into the power of listening, followed by the psychological tactics in playing the part. And finally, we'll wrap up with making your move to seal the deal on your terms. Okay, let's dive right into section 1, setting the playing field. Because, look, in any negotiation, how you start is often just as crucial as how you finish. These first moves can totally set the tone for everything that comes after. So, the first tactic is something called anchoring. Whatever that first number is, a salary, a price, you name it, it psychologically tethers the whole conversation to that point. Our brains just latch onto it, and every single number after that gets judged against that initial anchor. And here's the wild part. The science shows that even when you know anchoring is happening, it still works. So how do you use this to your advantage? It's actually pretty simple. 1, you have to go first. You've got to seize that opportunity to set the anchor yourself. 2, be bold, but keep it believable. If you go way too extreme, you just lose all credibility. And 3, by doing this, you're not just making an offer. You are literally setting the boundaries for the entire negotiation. You're forcing them to play in your world. Okay, next up is your BATNA. Now, it stands for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement. But don't worry about the fancy acronym. In simple terms, it's your backup plan. What are you going to do if this deal completely falls apart? Your BATNA, that's the source of all your power in a negotiation. And the difference here is, well, it's night and day. With a strong BATNA, like another job offer or another interested buyer, you have power. You can walk away. You get to negotiate. Without one, you've got desperation. You need the deal. And at that point, you're not negotiating, you're pretty much begging. The key thing to remember is you have to build your BATNA before you even think about sitting down at the table. All right, let's move to section 2 and see how this all builds, the power of listening. The best negotiators often talk the least. These next tactics are all about using silence and observation to gain a serious advantage. First up is a technique called mirroring. It sounds almost too simple to work, but trust me, it's a total game changer. All you do is repeat the last 2 or 3 key words your counterpart just said, but with a slight upward questioning tone. It just triggers this automatic response in their brain to explain more, to fill in the gaps. Here's a perfect example of how it works. Let's say they tell you, I just can't go lower than $500. You simply respond, lower than $500? See, you haven't argued, you haven't made a counteroffer. But almost instinctively, they'll start justifying why, and in doing that, they might just talk themselves down to a better price, giving up info you never would have gotten otherwise. Our next listening tool is tactical silence. After they make an offer or state their position, you just stop talking. That's it. Human beings are fundamentally wired to hate awkward silence. It creates this vacuum, and the other person will feel this overwhelming urge to fill it. That discomfort creates pressure, and that pressure can often make them give up ground without you even saying a single word. Feel that? That urge for someone to say something? In a negotiation, the person who cracks and fills that silence is usually the one who loses. They start negotiating against themselves, maybe sweetening the deal just to break that awful tension. All right, let's move on to section 3, playing the part. Now, these tactics are a little more, performative. They're all about using psychology and your own reactions to shift the momentum of the entire conversation. First up is the flinch. When you hear their offer, you react. A slight lean back, a subtle shake of the head, maybe a quiet oof. This little nonverbal cue instantly plants a seed of doubt. It makes them wonder if their number was reasonable before you've even had to say anything. The key here, though, is authenticity. It has to be a genuine, subtle reaction to make them second-guess their own position. Next, we've got the classic good cop/bad cop, We've all seen this in the movies. One person is the harsh, totally unreasonable bad cop, while their partner is the friendly, understanding good cop. After you've dealt with the bad cop, you feel such relief when the good cop comes in that you start to see them as your ally. And you're way more likely to make concessions to them because you feel like they're on your side, even though, of course, they're both working toward the exact same goal. And then there's a technique called the door in the face. Here's how it works. First, you make a massive, kind of ridiculous request that you know they're going to reject. For example, asking to borrow a friend's car for a whole month. After they say no way, you follow up with your real, much smaller request. Okay, fine. Well, how about just for the weekend? The contrast makes your actual goal seem incredibly reasonable, and that social pressure to meet you halfway makes them way more likely to say yes. And that brings us to our final section, making your move. Okay, you've set the field, you've listened, you've played the part. Now it's time to use these closing tactics to finalize the deal and get it done in your favor. Now, a crucial rule here is to trade, not give. I mean it. Never, ever offer a concession for free. If they ask for a discount, don't just say yes. Negotiation is an exchange, it's not charity. Every single time you give something up for nothing, you're basically signaling that you have more to give. The language for this is so simple and so powerful. Just use a conditional phrase. I can lower the price if you increase the order size. Or, yeah, I can agree to that timeline if you can commit today. This sets a rule, reciprocity. They quickly learn that to get something, they've got to give something. Okay, now for a brilliant little closing move, the nibble. After the main deal is basically done, when everyone is mentally packing up their briefcases, you ask for one last small thing. Great, so we're all set. Just one last thing. Could you throw in free delivery? By this point, they've already invested so much time and energy, they are not going to let the whole deal fall apart over something minor. They'll usually just agree to get it over the finish line. Finally, we have the highest risk move in the playbook, the ultimatum. This is your take it or leave it moment. So when does it work? It works when you have strong leverage and you are genuinely 100% willing to walk away, when that BATNA is rock solid. When does it backfire? When you're bluffing or when you use it way too early in the game. If you throw down an ultimatum you can't back up, you lose all your credibility and you probably lose the deal. And that really brings us to the core truth that supports this entire playbook. From your BATNA all the way to the ultimatum, real power in any negotiation doesn't come from being the loudest person in the room or the most aggressive. It comes from being able to genuinely walk away from the table and know that you'll be just fine. So now you have 10 proven plays right at your fingertips. This isn't about confrontation, it's all about strategy. The playbook is yours now. So the only question left is, in your next negotiation, which move are you going to make first?